Welcome to part 2 of the basic neuropharmacology of natural products. In this module, we'll be talking about norepinephrine, what it is, how it works, and different therapeutic agents that influence its actions at the synaptic level. Norepinephrine is a catecholamine, meaning it has a catechol and an amine functional group. It's very similar to dopamine. So in the previous module, we looked at dopamine. This is a derivative of dopamine. It's also a monoamine by definition because it has an amine group. Norepinephrine is a critical neurotransmitter in the sympathetic nervous system, which regulates the fight or flight response, and it also affects perceived energy levels and alertness. The therapeutic relevance of norepinephrine mainly has to do with mood disorders like depression, attention deficit disorder, addiction, and high blood pressure. In the brain, norepinephrine is mostly synthesized in an area called the locus ceruleus, which means blue spot in Latin. The adrenal medulla also produces norepinephrine in response to stress, and that increases heart rate, it constricts blood vessels, it elevates blood pressure. So that's one of the ways in which stress can make hypertension worse. It's through activating these adrenergic receptors in the vasculature and peripheral organs. You'll recognize the biosynthetic pathway from the previous module. So this is just looking at how norepinephrine is made. We have tyrosine converting to L-DOPA. L-DOPA is then converted to dopamine. Dopamine enters vesicles via a monoamine transporter, and then it can be converted to norepinephrine by an enzyme called dopamine beta hydroxylase. As with any neurotransmitter, these vesicles will store it until an action potential triggers an influx of calcium ions through voltage-gated ion channels. The entry of the calcium stimulates the fusion of that vesicle with the presynaptic cell membrane, which allows the release of norepinephrine into the synaptic cleft. Once norepinephrine is released into the synaptic cleft, then it's free to diffuse around and find these adrenergic receptors and bind to them. So adrenergic receptors are G-protein coupled receptors. Here's a schematic showing the receptor that's recognizing the ligand. And once that occurs, then the G-protein is activated, and that can stimulate second messenger production. So cyclic AMP is a second messenger, for example. The binding of an adrenergic receptor is usually an excitatory event. It excites the postsynaptic cell. In some cases, depending on the cell type and the receptor type, that could be an inhibitory event. It's not important to dwell on this, but just recognize that there are different types of adrenergic receptors that respond in different ways to the same substance, norepinephrine. Reuptake occurs through a transporter that brings norepinephrine back into the presynaptic cell, and that allows it to be degraded. So the enzymes that degrade norepinephrine are MAO and catechol O-methyltransferase. Reuptake requires a transporter, and that transporter can be blocked or inhibited in some way by a variety of substances. Amphetamines, tricyclics, selective norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, and cocaine all reduce the function of this transporter, and that results in more epinephrine staying in the synaptic cleft and being able to continuously bind to the adrenergic receptors. So you get an amplification of the clinical effects of norepinephrine if you inhibit that reuptake process. Most of us would want more norepinephrine around 2:30 in the afternoon, where we might be feeling sluggish. Psychological, social, lifestyle influences are very profound. Whether they're stressful or exciting, you're going to support the function, the release, and the function of norepinephrine. So natural speed, obviously, is something we're all looking for. Some of us find it through achieving goals. Some of us find it through creating exciting experiences. When it comes to supporting norepinephrine, lifestyle factors are very, very effective. So always consider these first.